Welcome back to Inspired Life Virtual Retreat, Soulful Purpose. I am so pleased to be joined here today with Tanya Saunders. She is a pause breathwork facilitator and embodiment coach. And I'm just so thankful you can join us in our conversation around how our soulful purpose can really change and uplift our lives. And I would love to just open the space with doing just some breathing, some full body breaths together.
Yes, thank you so much
Yes.
for having me on, and I agree with you.
Okay, let's breathe it. Breathe it in. And I'd just like to take a moment and just ask our participants to really feel into what they would like to set for their own intention for our time together, so that you're able to really kind of get those juicy nuggets out of our discussion to apply to your own life, and make sure that you're able to really use this dialogue to move yourself forward. I also just want to thank you all for showing up in this discussion around purpose and just connecting in with our soul's path. And we know that, like, when we have the courage to really step into that purpose in our own life, it really inspires other people and gives them the courage to do the same. And so as we do this as a collective, it really has a healing energy for the entire planet. And so with that, Tanya, would you share with us a bit about your work, please?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Maggie, for having me on. And I love the way you started, and I feel really grounded with starting that way and with your energy too. So I feel really grateful and honored to be here with you and to share about pause breathwork and what I do. So my work is in breathwork. I'm a pause breathwork facilitator, and I am an embodiment coach. And without really having this embodied awareness, I don't think I would have been aware of my purpose. And before, I used to get annoyed with people saying, what's your purpose, what your passion is. And I realized that was my own trigger because I was so disconnected from my body. And once I began to remember who I was at my very essence, what I call my soul, that is really when all these inspired actions started flowing and my own life became more of ease because it was in alignment that I felt within my body. And I don't think I could have had that without breath work because of our overactive minds that so many of us have, right? We have like these minds that keep us either stuck in our past or just stuck because we fear the future, and we stay in victim mode or we stay in unworthiness. And when we use breath work to become the observer of our mind, it allows that compassion to begin to let these emotions flow and unblock us, and then really get in touch with who we are, what is alive for us in our body, like what is our truth.
Yes, I love this because I resonate with, like, when you kind of activate your purpose and your passion, then it does give you this inspired action, right?
Yes.
And then it leads and this alignment, right? And then you kind of find that you, like, things gravitate towards you. And as much as there's effort, there has to be follow through and action. But it's kind of like, I see it as like when you turn that on, there's like this catalytic energy that then like ignites this like soul spark within you, right? And then
Yes.
it starts like, oh, do this, oh, maybe this or that, or and I think when we're not on purpose, there's a bit of this feeling like we're just like wandering, like a little bit sleepy. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? A little bit sleepy in our.
Unconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
It's an
Mm-hmm.
unconscious way of living, and it's an unconscious way of creating. So you're not connected to really what your truth is, what is alive for you. So once you start to feel that inspiration that comes from joy, right? And you're really elevating at these high, high levels. And then when you're elevating at those high levels, those are frequencies, those are vibrations. And then that's what you attract. You attract more of that.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And I just love this. I was thinking like breath work. It's so sorry, this is going to be like a pun within a pun, because it's like within breath work there's such reciprocity, which is actually the breath is the cycle, right? But then I can see how like breath work would allow you to connect in, calm your mind enough to actually tune into your purpose, to find your passion. And then for you, your passion actually partly was breath work. So it's like,
I know. Okay. Yeah,
like
absolutely. Yes.
cycles
Yes.
within cycles, because for me, like when I start with breath, and I was fortunate to attend a college where we did breath work at the beginning of every class. And
Beautiful.
so it like, for me, it's like, it helps my mind, but it also makes me aware of like the total, like, because you're also an embodiment coach, right? So
Yes.
it's like the breath also makes me so much more aware of the totality of my being, of my whole body, that I'm not just from head up, you know?
Yes.
And
No, I love that you said that. And I love that you use the word totality, because for some reason, the past couple of weeks, that has been such a word, a buzzword that I've been using to explain what I do. And that is to embrace your totality, that we are in this world, we're so used to our social conditioning of like black and white and duality. And in spirituality, it's non-duality, right? And then with breath work, it allows us, there comes this, the observation and the compassion again of not of parts of us that we often don't like, that we avoid some of these emotions, right? And then when we embrace the totality of who we embrace the totality, because we are the universe. So if we are the universe, we are everything. We
yes.
are all the parts of us, the good, the bad, the light and the dark.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much beauty in that when you embrace the totality of it.
Yes. And I can see for people who are stepping into their purpose, there's this totality of like fear, of unknown, of can I do it? Am I worthy of it? Am I all of these things? And then there's the excitement and the inspiration and the joy and kind of this feeling of like, well, what else can I mean, once you really tune into it, it's kind of like, well, even if I fail, I have to do it.
Yes.
It's almost like finding a lover or a love or a soulmate. Okay, let's go with soulmate. It's like finding a soulmate and you're like, I don't know if this is good or not, but I don't have a choice. Do you know what I mean? Like I have to show up for this relationship to see who this person is. And it's kind of the same thing with ourselves. Once we really tune into our soul at that frequency, you're kind of like, I don't know where this this crazy voice in my head's going to lead me, or this inspiration is going to lead me, but I have to follow it, you
Yes.
know?
Yes.
Yeah.
And once you start listening to it and once you start paying attention to how you feel in the body, you'll you'll get to know what a yes or no is, right? So you're like,
Mhm.
it's there for a reason. Everybody's here for a reason. And we've just so often through now, whatever your history is, it's been blocked by either social conditioning or just lots of our past experiences. And then again, right, the pain from the past and the fear of the future. But when we can look to that, oh, I don't know what's going to happen, or like look to the resistance and into it in a compassionate way and say, what am I not seeing here? Or what is this trying to teach me? And you take action on that. And it doesn't always mean it's going to be like the right step, but it's going to lead you to the next step. It's 100% going to
Yeah.
lead you to the next step.
Yeah.
And
And
then again, you start to feel like the contraction and then the openness in your body. And then you
yes.
keep following it. You just keep following it.
Yes. And so I'm curious, like when you hear soulful purpose, what does that really like conjure up for you? What is your idea of what a soulful purpose is?
It means in alignment with what is true in my
Mhm.
body. And that's what it means. It means like this central channel, this energy force that lives within me that's never changing. It's always there. It receives messages from source. And if I allow to receive it, it is my purpose.
Yes. Yes. And and so could you share with us a little bit about your journey to becoming a breathwork and embodiment coach and facilitator?
Sure. Yeah. So I am also a nurse anesthetist. That has been my job for over 20 years. And, it's like, do I just stay in this job, even though it has been really professional fulfilling? And as we know, in my generation, once you pick a job or a job that your parents told you to pick, you stay in it and that's it. Right. So it's like, check the box. I'm married. I have beautiful kids, beautiful family. Is that it? No, I was just something else lit me up. I started a network marketing business, which was my first like little step into this launch of something different than anesthesia. And when I got into network marketing, it became a personal development launch. And through that, I found podcasting, and podcasting really lit me up. So I started interviewing people who were inspiring to me, like you, Maggie, right? Like light workers, like stories that were so inspiring, which led me to my next step, which was, oh, I really like the life coach school model, the podcast. So I
Mhm.
was thinking, should I get my life coaching certification? I really
Mhm.
liked the idea of having a lifestyle brand
Mhm.
mixed in with like health and wellness and fitness, just like that. That really lit me up. And positive psychology was something that it made logical sense to me. It did. So I kind of went down that route for a little bit, did self-coaching scholars, did the positive psychology, but there was something about are you familiar with that model?
Not specifically.
So, like your circumstances are unchanging. You have no control over your circumstances. Those cause your thoughts cause your feelings cause your actions always cause your results, your reality.
Mhm.
That's the idea.
Mhm.
And so if you, the only control we have over is our thoughts. So it's how to flip your thought to get to what you want to create in life. But I couldn't understand how to flip your thought. It wasn't intuitive to me to just flip my thought because I didn't feel it, right? Like logically I knew what I wanted to create, but it didn't match up with how I felt aligned. It was just like this paper thing that I had to like fill out. Oh, thought swap, and I was just supposed to like believe it. And I'm like, this isn't matching. So I somehow ran across a life coaching certification through Sam Skelly. And Sam Skelly had Hungry for Happiness. She has a emotional eating certification. That is her life coaching certification. And I've had an eating disorder in the past, and that really just resonated with me. And so I looked at that certification. It still wasn't, it was like a next nudge, but not quite yet.
Yeah.
And then once I started getting, how you get emails once you start signing up for something, I kept
Mhm.
getting Sam's emails. And I don't always open up her emails, but I opened up an email that she was launching her pause beta certification. And and it was a breathwork certification she was going to try out. And I said to my husband, I know this does not make any sense, but I really want the certification. I need to go to San Diego with girls I don't even know, a couple $1,000s, a week away from work, and I just have to do it. And that was a year ago. And it was, as I've said before, next to my husband and my 3 children, it was the most impactful experience I've ever had in my life. It was a connection to home. And Maggie, I went to do pause breathwork because I wanted breathwork for the anxiety piece. I didn't know it was going to be a
Yeah.
transformative piece. I didn't know it was going to be a healing piece that I was going to integrate into my life and truly, truly have that transformation. Once I experienced it, it has been just like this most profound experience as a human. And I really, truly just feel like a vessel receiving messages from source. And through that, I've been able to like heal. So receiving messages from source, which goes to my intuition, to my soul, and I listen to these messages, what my body is messaging me, either through contraction or expansion, or that yes or that no, that visceral feeling in your body. And that's how I found my embodiment coach, Madeline Moon. And through her, I was able to dive into the work of divine feminine and sacred masculine. And that work has been incredible. It amplified what breathwork did for me as far as like a transformation into healing. And then it became like this harmony within me of energies, really understanding these energies that live within us, the masculine and feminine energies, and how to move our emotions. So again, why we tend to block a lot of our emotions is because we don't like the way that we feel. So once we change, breathwork has been able to change my relationship to my emotions, and then also to understand now these emotions, this divine feminine energy, which is all the emotions, and now being able to use breath as a way to express it in a very sacred, heart conscious, open way. And that is how I came down this path of being an embodiment coach, and now using the moon phases on top of that to guide women now in my membership because as women, we cycle, right? Our emotion cycle, our hormone cycle. So it became a way for me to guide women with a 28-day energy self-care ritual with breathwork to really feel into our body, get in touch with your intention that comes from your soul, that comes from your core desires, to be able to take inspired actions on for every 28 days. And that is what I do.
Oh, that is so beautiful, because it's like so multi-leveled, right? From our individual embodiment up to our body's connection to the moon, right?
Yes.
Because really that 28-day cycle is this celestial connection that we have.
Celestial connection and co-creating with the cosmos. But honestly, like, to break it down to people who aren't even connected to the moon or the cosmos, but to know as a woman that we're so different every 28 days, we're different day to day, week to week. And to be able to, and this is for even women who don't bleed, but to have a structure to understand that you are different from the day of your menstrual cycle, the first day of your menstrual cycle, or from the day of the new moon. You are different from day 14 of like the full moon, or day 16, whatever it looks like for you, to the start of a new cycle. You know, we wax, we wane, we ebb and we flow. And there's a way for us to embrace, again, that we're totality, all the different parts of ourself, all like our essential like maiden self, our mothering, nurturing self, and our crone self full of wisdom. And it's such a beautiful, beautiful way to harmonize all these energies that we have. And we do it with breath work, we do it by following the moon cycle, we do it by co-creating with the universe, and we do it by expressing who you are, your truth, always understanding how to stay in alignment with who you are.
Yeah. And I can see how, so in some of my work, the purpose is like the water element of the work that I'm doing. And so I can see how in the moon cycle, when there is that waning moon and that new moon energy, for me would be like when you're really tapping into your intention, right? Like
Yes.
when you're really like, it's not even planting the seed yet. It's like tilling the soil kind of thing. You know, you're like, you're just in it. You're just gestating. You're just, you don't, it's like the same thing the breath work does, right? It's just like clearing, making space, opening,
Preparing. Yes.
preparing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that because we live in such a masculine dominated society for the most part, we, even as women, we're always looking for the outward tangible steps, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and we bypass, I feel like, a lot of our potency, which I think really lies in that inward, that yin, that unknowing, the unformed, the right, the part of ourselves that doesn't need to even have like a singular purpose,
Yes.
right? It's just tuning into our innate being and being from that place. And then out of that comes the inspiration of like,
Absolutely.
hmm,
Absolutely.
you know, I think that this is what I'm feeling called to do. This is
Mhm.
what is resonating. This is what's in alignment with me.
Yeah, and that's
And
where the that's where the no hustle culture comes in, right? Because you're not planning. You're like divinely guided. You're divinely guided.
yes. And when you do it in that way, which takes, you know, I see it as like, because I was into like equine therapy and equine and riding and stuff for a while. And one of the things as a new rider that you really have to learn is to not like choke up on the reins for the
Mhm.
horse. So you have to hold the reins like very loosely. You're not controlling the horse really. Like in the beginning, people think that's how you're like steering the horse. But really, if you're a real rider, you're doing that with your body, you're doing that with your legs. And the reins are just there as like a secondary kind
Mhm.
of thing, right? And so I feel like when I apply this to my life, it's like, don't choke up on the reins. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like,
Yes.
and you're an embodiment coach, so you'll get this. It's like, feel it through your body.
Yeah.
Let it like, let you be like pulled and, you know, to what you're doing instead of like
Mhm.
the mind is like, I gotta do it. I gotta accomplish. I gotta, you know, get to 6 figures or whatever, you know? And it's like, no, just allow that divine guidance to come in and then feel the pull, you know, like, which is so cool because it guides back to the moon, right? And the pull of the ocean and the, you know?
Yes. Trust and surrender, ebbs and flows. We all cycle, and that's the idea of harmony, right? Is being able, your feminine energy, the energy that's chaos and chaotic. You want to be able to trust your masculine to hold all that,
Mm-hmm.
as a
Mm-hmm.
container and of depth and of unchanging. And it's it's not hard to do. It's just different because that's just not the world we've been taught or like
Exactly.
lived in. It's
Mm-hmm.
just practice. It's just practice, and so that's why it's maybe to some people to say that I do a 28-day energy self-care ritual sounds rigid, and into how it's really you use it to what feels good in your body. It's just a guide. It's just a
It's just a
guide.
guide. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And so, can you kind of help us to see, like, since you've really kind of claimed this path for yourself, how does your life looking like different, like before and now? And can you kind of share with us, like, the
oh
feelings
yeah,
of that? Yeah.
sure. I was living before of the I had to have this to be this to feel that,
Oh,
before.
okay. Say this again. I
It's
had to
the,
have this.
it's like
Yeah.
you need to have and be this to feel this, so
Mm-hmm.
it was
Mm-hmm.
it was always it was not trusting. It was just I
Mm-hmm.
had to remain in this job so that my I could provide for the family. And while I was doing something, while I was trying to, take steps towards my passion, I could feel some of the joy, but I would always like kind of be resistant of it just because
Yeah.
I wasn't trusting it. I wasn't trusting it. But then I will tell you how I was able to get there was this idea of looking at it that you can feel it now. It's safe to feel it now. You're not attached to the external. What is the actual feeling that you want? And if you just follow what really lights you up and let go, that's when abundance comes. So
Mhm.
it's like this past year over, and this is taken work. This is not intuitive, right? Even though, like I say, I've been doing the breath work and I'm understanding what a contraction and what an expansion feels like in my body, it's still this outside world that is constantly giving you those barriers, those challenges
Yeah.
to COVID, for instance, right, and just to be able to understand that it starts within first to be able to match your external. It's so true. So I
Mhm.
have just been so devoted, which is why I am very much committed to a self-care practice, a self-care ritual, because again, it is practice and it doesn't have to be so rigid, but just to have breath work every day, because we wake up right in like this fight flight, like anxiety ridden first time you stub a toe or a trigger happens, like it'll throw you over the edge, and then you'll just revert back to like unworthiness issues or something, anything you essentially like easily can self-sabotage. But once you stay committed to knowing what your truth is, really feeling into that feeling, you you just surrender to what happens. So again, you're not planning, you're just being divinely guided. You're just being divinely guided. So I was just doing breath work. I was just taking steps towards following my passion, whether it was providing breath work, through different communities, and then starting a virtual business, and then just kept going and just listening, listening, listening. And now it's just led me to meet people like you, to other teachers, like I've said, like through Sam Skelly and through Madeline Moon and now Sahara Rose. And it just keeps opening these doors of more of what my soul's purpose is. And that's just to serve in this beautiful gift of wanting to feel fully express, serve as how you can feel fully express, and serve other women and showing them or guiding them in listening to their intuition, listening to their joy, what lights them up. So I've, I don't know, I've just been living very abundantly and with such joy, with such, I think Sahara Rose said this. She's like, everybody wants to be happy, right? But
Mhm.
you're not going to be happy unless you are truly, truly living in alignment from your soul, from your soul's purpose, from your essence. And you can only do that by taking those initial steps of what you feel inspired to do, and by having a meditative practice so you don't get caught up into the external world, which is really, really easy to do.
Yeah. And so, you know, you're kind of touching on like, what do you think, what would you say to people who feel out of touch with their soul's purpose?
I would say they're disconnected from their
Yeah.
body,
Yeah.
and that's this idea of the mind, body, heart connection,
Mhm.
and not
Mhm.
living in a heart conscious way. And I would invite them to settle into whatever meditative process looks like. Meditation doesn't have to be, every meditation is sacred, but it doesn't have to be just sitting in silence. It could be dance, it's movement, it's breath work, it is anything that you can become the observer of what you're thinking. And
Yeah. And kind of too, observe what you're thinking, and then allowing so sometimes what I do if I'm meditating and I'm finding that my mind is just like, in all
Totally.
that superficial thinking,
Yes.
I'll like match my vibration to that superficial thinking instead of trying to calm it. And when I match it, it immediately starts calming on its own, if that makes sense.
Well, that's
So
interesting.
I'll like heighten my like I'll like, say my mind is like thinking of all the things. So I'll let my frequency actually rise up into my head. Like I'll actually let it go there. And then by going there, it just like eases down and out, So that's one of the techniques I've learned for meditation that helps me, that just came naturally, was like, instead of trying to like see the thinking and feeling, because a lot of times we can feel where our soul is like at this lower current, but our mind is up here, and there's this disconnected frequency. So I find if my soul goes and meets that, it
No, that's so
feels,
beautifully explained. Yes, because you're just allowing yourself to feel instead of pushing it down, which is always going to be the resistance
or
and the avoidance.
disconnecting more and being like, oh, I wish my brain would just meet my soul,
Yeah, and then it's like poof, right? Then it's not so bad. And that's the idea that
so bad. Exactly.
it's like our nervous system carries these pain bodies, and we just think, and it's just trying to protect us. Our poor ego, our ego really gets such a bad name, but it really is just trying to protect us. But again, there goes that idea of like using breath work to trigger that relaxing part of your nervous system, your parasympathetic nervous system, so you are able to have the compassion to be able to feel, like you said, and then just realize that you move these emotions or energies in motion, you move it, you create the space, you create the expansion, you create the openness, you create that energy flow. And that's actually the very light way of being. That is the higher frequencies. That's the higher vibrations that we want. That's that, like, the highest you can get. It's like, 700, right? Like the 700-ish of inspiration. And
I'm thinking
those are the energies
like,
you want to co-create with.
Yeah. And there's this frequency of like, I think also it allows my soul and the part of me that has a deeper wisdom than the part of me that's like dealing with all the mundane earth situations we've created.
Dense.
And it's like, and it's like allowing my soul to meet that part of me that's having to keep up with all of this and like hold space for it. Because sometimes it's so much to manage on an earthly level, you know? And so just allowing that soul energy to really hold it and be like, it's okay, I get it. It's a lot, girl. It is a lot, But I think when we live from this place of purpose, we have that, compass, that internal compass to come back to. And like you're saying, we can feel that alignment then within our body. Like, is this something that really needs my attention even? Or is this something that I can let go of and I can trust? And sometimes for me, like yesterday, I was having a lot of stuff come up and I was like, is this a phone call I need to make, or should I just pray it to happen? And I ended up saying, I'm just going to pray it into existence. I'm not going to make the phone call. I'm just going to pray it to happen, because that felt like a more direct path, And if I had stayed in the mind, so it's kind of the same thing. Like sometimes we feel like we have to stay in our job. We have to stay in the rat race, right? And it's like, sometimes you're like, if I really look at it, do I really need to? Maybe I actually have the support that I need to step away.
That's the idea, right? Because when you're so aligned and you're so centered, when things from the external come to you that can unravel you, shake you off of that center, you can resource, because you're so anchored, you can resource from the energy below you, the energy above you. You are able to find help. You're able to resource and receive if you can truly feel that alignment, truly feel from your heart conscious that you are worthy of receiving.
That is so beautifully put. And when you're living this life that has been externally given to you,
Yeah.
then it's harder to pull on those resources often, because you like don't have that base there. It's kind of like a daily meditation practice.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of days it's like good, but then the hard days are like easier because you've been doing it, because you've stayed, because you've developed a practice, right? You can kind of be like, okay, even though I'm not, this isn't going to be the blissed out meditation practice, but it's still going to help me. It's still going to, I'm going to feel more whole and grounded after. And it's because of all of the days that I did it when it was easy, if that
Yes.
kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And that's exactly why you need it. Like, you need those rituals, those practices, whatever it looks like for you, to provide those anchoring pieces in your life every day.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm thinking, like, just in kind of wrapping this all together in a nice bundle, it's like having these practices can help you to tune into your purpose for people who are feeling disconnected from that. But it can also help you to take those next steps into actually manifesting and taking inspired action. And it can also help you, so it can give you that courage, right? And that kind of like filling up. And then also along the way, when things happen, it becomes a resource for you.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. It becomes, I mean, it's such a resource, like on a minute to minute basis. You can use an integrated breath work to tap into peace and calm, so you're always going to act as your higher self. And then in a meditative breath work, you can use it for transformation, to truly transmute these stuck energies that stay really stagnant, keep you feeling low, keep you dense, keep you frustrated, keep you overwhelmed. And you can transmute that into vibrations of those inspired actions, and of being divinely guided. And it's such a beautiful, beautiful way to live.
You know what else I love about breath? Like, we always have it with us.
We always have it.
We
We
always
always have
have
it.
it. We always
And
have it.
and how beautiful it is that we can actually biohack our nervous system with just using your breath.
Right?
It's your medicine. It really is your
Yes.
medicine. You can tap into it any moment at any time.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Tanya, for
Thank
this
you.
beautiful discussion. And I'm just want to take a moment and thank you for just the openness that you've shared with us on your journey. And I'm so excited that you're like living your soulful purpose,
Oh,
how
thank
beautiful.
thank
And
you,
I would
Maggie.
love to just kind of, breathe it in. I'd love to just take a couple moments and just breathe and kind of ground in this discussion and like send it out as a prayer.
Absolutely. I love that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And may all beings be happy and free. And may our thoughts, words, and actions contribute to the happiness and freedom of all beings everywhere. And thank you again, Tanya.
Oh, thank you, Maggie, for having me on.